Welcome to Story Comic Presents, where we interview amazing storytellers and artists. This is episode 433. I'm your host, Barney Smith of StoryComic.com, and we're excited to have with us the internationally acclaimed and award-winning author and business owner, Anne Armstrong. Anne.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Right. And so this is exciting. So you actually have your page, your brand basically is My Gnome on the Roam, correct?
That's right.
Yeah. Talk to us a little bit about this. What was the inception of this?
I adopted my son really late, the age of 44. And I am the daughter of two teachers and was a teacher myself. So I knew a couple of things. One, that I was not going to have a whole bunch of money to leave to my son when it was my time to go. It was important to me to kind of build something um, with him and for him that kind of created a legacy, even if it wasn't a financial one.
Mm.
And also, I realized really quickly I got maternity leave, even though I adopted. And very quickly after returning to work after maternity leave, I had dreamed of being a parent for like 30 years or so. Um, and I had, tucked away so many ideas of things I wanted to do with him and memories I wanted to make. And when I would get home at the end of the day and pick him up from daycare, and we would do dinner and laundry and bath time, and we were lucky if we could get a story in at the end of the night. And so I started collecting more abbreviated things, shorter little adventures that we could take together in the small pockets of time that we had. And I went back to school and I talked to the other teachers and the parents. And I figured out that this was not just me, that it was a real problem that lots of people have. And so that was kind of where the brand was born.
How do you believe My Gnome on the Roam enhances family bonding and creativity among children and their parents?
It does. And honestly, the more it unfolds, because I've been working on this brand now for 10 years, it works for anybody. It's not just
Mm.
parents and kids. It works for grandparents and grandkids. It works for couples. It works for friends. There's nobody, anyone who wants to have non-screen things to do.
Mm.
It works for them, and the heartbeat of our brand is our app. We have books, and the books tell the story, I say, of our OGs, our original gnomes.
Huh.
Um, we have gnomes, then the end of each story is the beginning of your own story. We're really about, we tell a story, but what we're all really about is getting other people to have adventures and then to write about them, because there's no story that's more important than your own story. And if you
Right.
don't write it, unless you get wildly famous, it's unlikely that somebody else is going to write it for you. So what the app is designed to do. It gives you a daily idea for adventures, most of which fit into small pockets of time and are inexpensive or free. And then there's a place where you can upload a picture and write a journal entry, which can be quotes from your kids about what they liked or what they want to remember. It can be thumbs up or thumbs down or 5 stars. It can be, you can journal anything you want. But the important thing is that it's not just a picture sitting in your phone that 5 years from now you're scrolling through and looking through, and you see the picture and you're like, where was that? What were we doing? Because I told myself when I adopted my son that would never happen to us. But it didn't take 3 or 4 months before I started, with the a selective amnesia of certain things.
Could you share like a memorable story or feedback from a family that has used My Gnome on the Roam?
Our One of the very first families that I kind of followed, um, the gnomes. If you see the second picture over is the gnome in his home. So um, when you are on an adventure, they're made out of urban vinyl, so you can take them with you. They're very durable. You can wash them and things like that. But when they're not on an adventure, you can tuck them back into their home and they can live there. Um, so they're really designed so that you can turn them into a mascot. You can color them, you can add stickers or anything you want. And then we have an online adoption certificate. This
Oh, cool.
particular family didn't design the gnome. Instead, every time they went on an adventure, they put the initials of where they went and the date. And I thought that was such a creative, simple way to make sure that, you know, this was pre, um, we have added the journal to the app. Once upon a time, it was just the ideas. Um, I thought that was a really creative way for them to sort of remember the places that they'd gone. Now we have the journal, so they can add it there too. But anyway, I thought that was really cool. And so we have a group of people, I call them gnome ambassadors. They're people who um, use the gnomes and take them along regularly and have kind of become ambassadors for our brand. And they were our very first gnome ambassadors.
Oh, fun. How do you incorporate educational principles into the adventures and activities associated with My Gnome on the Roam?
Everything is educational. That's the real trick, right? What we have lost largely by putting kids in classrooms so early and making them sit still and take tests, standardized tests, no less, when we know that every child learns differently, thinks differently, creates differently, is we have bored the pajaggers out of our kids. By the time they're, you know, 7, 8, 9, they start hating school. If
Mm,
we're lucky, they love books, so they'll get lost in the books. But when kids voluntarily go on an adventure and get excited and curious, that's all the educational principle you ever need, right? They
mm,
can write about it afterwards. They can think about what they enjoyed. They can think, I mean, there's so many things to anything that you do, if you reflect back on it, is that's educational. And um, the difference is we don't have to test them. Journaling and thinking about it, they'll have things that they want to do again. In fact, in the app we have a little place where you can favorite the things that you really enjoy, and you don't ever have to do something again if you don't like it. Like my kid is right now running track. I
hmm.
wouldn't run track unless there was someone behind me with a sharp object, uh, that will always be a no for me. But I I think that the trick is doing new things all the time, right? So every single day in our app, we give a different idea. There's a theme for each day of the week. There's things to make on Monday. Tell Me Tuesdays, things to talk about. Wanderlust Wednesday is places to explore. Throwback Thursday is old school fun and games. Uh, Freaky Friday is ways to be ridiculous and silly together, which I think is so important for parents and kids to do together, because when kids can see their parents be silly, when parents can let themselves be seen as silly, everything starts to balance out, I think. Saturdazzle Day are bigger adventures that sometimes take longer. And then Soul Food Sunday is one of my favorites because it's ways to experience awe and gratitude. Um, and in addition to those things, we offer challenges intermittently throughout the year. We just started today our Gnome Your Neighbor Challenge, which is a week long um, way to sprinkle kindness in your neighborhood or your school or your office. Um, at summer, we have Gnome Summer Camp for a week. In the holidays, we have our 24-day holiday adventure. And all of these are, every single day is a unique thing to do, because when you do new things, you come to it with a beginner's mindset. And that is the most important educational principle that we can ever do, is like, especially as adults, but we can show kids that it's okay to not do it perfectly, or to not even have, a real understanding of whatever it is you might be getting into as you start, and you will learn more about it. You'll either like it when you're done, or learn something that you didn't know, or decide that's not something that I want to do again. But however it turns out, you'll know something more than when you started.
Mm. Well, hey there. If you're enjoying our podcast, don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or leave us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast platform. Your support means the world to us and helps us keep this show going. We love hearing from you, so any feedback is welcome. And thank you for being a part of our podcast family and for all your support. It truly means a lot to us. With technology being so pervasive in children's lives, how does My Gnome on the Roam encourage more, let's say, like tactile or traditional play?
Um, the app has actually been called an anti-app,
That's
because
cool.
it is really designed as a tool for you to put down and go out in the world and actually do a thing, and then come back and write about it and upload the picture. But the idea is really designed as a key to sort
Mm.
of a key to adventure, sort of. So you look at, and you can scroll through. So if you don't like today's adventure, you have a whole library where you can scroll back through till you find one that you do like. Um, and so that is real important. I think that, computers, screens are incredibly valuable, but the beauty of not being an AI robot is that we get to be human. We get to feel feelings, and we get to experience things and not know all the answers. And so I think we kind of invite people to remember that.
Right. Now, so what? How has feedback from parents and educators shaped the evolution of your products? Then.
It's so funny, because I had, my whole lifetime was teaching, and I was a child of two teachers. That the real learning has been in, as a teacher, all we ever want is attention, the students' attention. We want them to pay attention to what we're sharing, pay attention to what they're doing, get invested. But once you switch it over to a business, you want money and sales and a whole bunch of other things, that has been a very uphill climb for me. Switching over to that mentality um, is something I still battle with all the time. um, the, the educators, we have people who use the adventure kit in their classroom. It's a great way to get parents involved in the classroom without them actually having to physically be at school, which
Mm.
can be, depending on, your, demographic, can be real challenging for various reasons. Um, so I really built the brand both as a parent and an educator, not as a business person. I went to market for the very first time with the adventure kit, which is the suitcase with everything in it.
Cool.
And the first thing that people said to me buyers, retailers said, "What else you got?" I was like, "This is it." And they're like, "Oh, wait a minute. No, you got to have smaller, and then you got to, have different things at different prices." And this was all news to me. So I built down. I started with the adventure kit, and then I kind of built down so that we had smaller items that were less expensive. And it's been a sort of row of dominoes that have slowly tipped over one by one. Lessons learned, mistakes made. Um, but I'm really grateful for it all because it has definitely kept me afloat. Um, Especially during retirement. My mother passed away, and this has given me something to, and my kid is growing up. That's another thing. So this is my other baby. So I've gotten to squeeze it when my kid won't let me hug him.
And so, what advice would you give parents who are looking to kind of foster a more creative environment at home?
That it doesn't have to be perfect. Messy is good
Mm,
because as soon as they figure out that it doesn't have to be photographable, it doesn't have, or Instagrammable, I should say that. I think pictures are good ways to remember things. Instagram pictures, not necessarily, right? That nobody else needs to see this picture necessarily. And every adventure doesn't need a picture, right? 15 minutes is enough time. In fact, 10 minutes. Studies show even 10 minutes of quality time between a child and a parent can make drastic differences in things like depression and their um, possibility of things like drug use and other coping mechanisms and things like that. 10 minutes. And
mm,
we waste 10 minutes scrolling on our phone, you know, at least 10 minutes every day. There are times that we often waste, and a little time spent together is so much more valuable than the saving up and just doing the week of vacation in the summer and calling it, that quality time. That's important too. But
right.
the little stitches that kind of weave those bigger experiences together, those are the things that kids remember. I have said to people that I feel like this brand is helping families build a legacy one adventure at a time, not a legacy of money necessarily, but a legacy of stories that you can tell around the Thanksgiving table, or that kids will be able to tell to their kids one day.
Right. Now, so for our listeners and our listeners and viewers out there, if they wanted uh, to say, "Anne, this is great. I want to get something like this for my kids." Is there? Because I'm going through your page, and there is like you got a huge store. So, what's a good starter thing for those that are just wanting to just start working with my gnome on the room?
Well, I mean, if you want to just try it out, the app, you get to try the app for free for a week.
Okay.
And then you can, it's $4.99 a month. The Everyday Adventures gives you those little ideas that kind of, stitch the big vacations and things together. Travel adventures are actually designed for when you are traveling, when you are on vacation. And they give ideas for airports, amusement parks, campgrounds, hotels, museums, and road trips. So it's kind of the getting there and the in between the big vacation things that you can do there. Um, so that's a great, those are things that you can try out for free. Um, our best deal is the adventure kit because in it is our book, a gnome that you can design. Our gnomes are designed to be mascots. They're not just a piece of art to put on a shelf, but a kind of a member of the family that comes along on adventures. And we have on our website, on our social media pages, we have people who literally have traveled all over the wide world with their gnomes. We have pictures of gnomes in at the Colosseum in Greece, and we have
Huh.
like at the Eiffel Tower and the castles in Scotland, and there's all just so many different. They take them everywhere. We have some travel bloggers that travel with the gnomes, but we have students who travel with them. We have a professor at Vanderbilt University who um, gets her students gnomes to take when they travel. So there's all kinds of places that you can take. But also in the kit there is a book that is the backstory of our gnome. The books are also designed to be colored. Each of our products is really designed to have multiple uses. And
Oh,
then
cool.
also the kit is a journal where you can write about your adventures. There's a place where you can put a picture, and then you can write about the adventures that you take. And in the app, you can actually print out the journals that you've put together there and just glue them into your journal.
Okay. How do you maintain the balance between educational content and just pure fun in your products?
I just don't think that there is a balance. I think that pure fun is educational almost always. Like I one of the best things that I used to teach 8th grade.
Mm.
And I worked really, really, called me the field trip queen, because I planned a field trip for every single semester, or not semester, but every single grading period. So if there were 9 weeks, we would do one every 9 weeks. If there were 6 weeks, we would do one every 6 weeks. And I tried to build fun field tripy things that were a culmination to the things that we were learning.
Mm.
And I just we so one of the best things we always did at the end of the year is we'd go on a field trip to an amusement park. I live in Tennessee, but the closest amusement park in those days was Kentucky Kingdom. And my kids would turn somersaults, backflips, and inside out to make sure that they were getting their work done in order to be able to go on that field trip. But the truth was, they were learning things. Like, we would go to the amusement park and they would be interacting with the things that we were learning. So I'm probably the wrong person to ask about that, because I believe learning is supposed to be fun. Curiosity is amazing. And kids don't get, I mean, some kids, I worked with gifted kids. So the truth
Mm.
is that there are gifted kids who are fascinated by things I could not give a squirt about. Like, there's the most boring thing, like, I, Legos are not my thing, but some people are obsessed with them. So it's, I just think that there's nothing that can't be educational. And um, I really think that that's where we're messing up in schools right now. If we can get people to be excited about learning, they won't want to stop when school is over. They will continue to learn things that they are interested in. I get that we have to teach kids certain things so that they're prepared to go out in the world and function. But
Mm.
most of the things that we need to teach them so they can go function are things that happen when they're interacting with other people, not
Mm.
always, you know what I mean, solo. Like working with other people who have different ideas than you, compromising, and I don't know, synergy, all of that. I think that that is where the real, um I don't know, that's
Right.
where the real educational stuff is.
What's the most important message you hope children and families take away from My Gnome on the Roam?
um if you follow curiosity, you're going to get somewhere good. And that parents should still be curious too. I think reminding parents that they can. they can have that same mindset as the kids. They can do and play and have that same kind of wide-eyed experience doing adventures that their kids do. They can reconnect to their inner kid. I They're going to teach their kids more than any educational thing that might happen on the trip.
Yeah. So Anne, if people want to learn more about my gnome on the roam, where's the best place they could go to?
They can check out the website, which is mygnomeontheroam.com. Um, and then from there, you can kind of scroll through. We have our shop is mygnomeontheroam /shop.
Mm-hmm.
But you can, before you get there, there's a lot of information to see. You can kind of read about what what makes us tick, and what
Mm.
we're trying to um, bring more of to the world, which is connecting, creating, exploring, and contributing to the world around us. Um, Kind of like the four directions on a compass, if you will. The north, south, east, and west.
Right.
That's kind of the four directions that are all of what we do kind of leads in one direction, and most of the time, more than one direction. We usually go. Um, Contribution usually is also connection, because if you're doing something for somebody else or with somebody else, connection happens too. But anyway,
Right.
that's the best place. You can read all about us, and you can try our app for free. We're really excited about it, um, and again, we're doing the Gnome Your Neighbor challenge. It's April 1st through the 7th,
Okay.
and other adventures will follow.
Perfect. This is exciting stuff. So Anne, you're gonna have to come back on again and we'll talk more. So thank you so much. Now, so my next question is like, how do you incorporate? Let me timestamp this. This is what I love about doing the pre-recordings, and is I can timestamp this stuff, and then I edit out all my ums, and it makes me sound super smart when I ask the question.